Hi, I'm Betsy Rosenberg. Welcome to one of the inaugural editions of Green TV. I am so excited to be interviewing all my favorite green friends over the years, so many great stories, so many great causes, so many great activists. One of them near the top, because we go back to beginning of the century, is Felix Kramer. And among other things, he is the founder of CalCars. You'll hear what that is. Oh, he was way ahead of his time, as was I, with the green media stuff. He is an ex-entrepreneur, maybe a recovering entrepreneur, a writer, an ideator, he says, a networker, and a founder. And you are all that and so much more, Felix. So take us back to 2002 and what you saw the need to do.
Sure. Well, it's wonderful to be with you here, not in person, not on radio, but on TV. So on video, I love it. Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you.
So back in 2002, I was not a car person in my life. I'd lived in Manhattan for 25 years without owning a car. But after I'd moved to California, I was a car owner, and I started thinking about what was missing. And I got really inspired by Amory Lovin's vision of a hypercar, a super efficient car that was much better than what we had now. And I thought, well, the car makers aren't interested in this. What if we organize a buy order? 25,000 people saying, this is the kind of car we want, build it for us. And I started talking about that idea for about 2 years, saying, why can't we have better cars? And I was first thinking about what he was proposing, which were hydrogen cars. And then I saw the first plug-in hybrid by a professor at UC Davis who'd converted some cars to plug in. And I thought, oh, that's much more practical. We could do that much quicker. And so I started talking about that. And I started talking about that for another year or two. People said, good idea. And then the second generation Prius came around, and it was a convertible, potentially. An engineer, Ron Gramban, approached me and said, you've been talking about converting cars. What about it? And we converted his car in his garage in Marin County. And we added batteries and a new some electronics to fool the system into accepting more power, because a regular hybrid is all gasoline. It's just a more efficient gasoline car. And we set this up so it could plug in. And we did the first one, and then we did a bunch of them, and we started driving around the Bay Area with big signs on them saying, this plug-in hybrid can get 100+ miles per gallon.
I remember that.
Yeah. And I started going to events. I went to the inaugural event of Step It Up, which became 350. A lot of other places. People got real excited about this, and people started converting cars, and then small companies started doing it. Senators and governors started driving around. We flew a car to Washington, D.C. and parked it in front of Congress, and people came out and looked at it, and they went back and said, well, if a bunch of hackers in California can do this, why can't the car makers? So it took from 2004 until 2009 until we'd kind of embarrassed and shamed the automakers into doing this. And so we got the Chevy Volt, and we got a bunch of others. So these are not full electric cars. These are cars that have a limited electric range, and when that's exhausted, they go back to gasoline. So there's no range anxiety, and they really help spark what we're seeing now with electric vehicles. So that was really satisfying.
I bet, and especially when Toyota came out with its first plug-in hybrid. How long did that take, and did they give you credit?
Well, when we did the first conversion, we didn't ask their permission. We told them, this is what we're doing. Take a look, watch us. GM was much more enthusiastic. Toyota was later to the game than GM, and they continue to be a little later to the game on electric vehicles than some of the other automakers. But now you can get EVs from every company, and we're heading toward an EV world.
And I go back to 2002, and I also saw a need. We were wondering, we mothers in Marin County, where I raised my daughter, why we weren't seeing more hybrid or even electric minivans or SUVs, because at that time they were all giant and they were gas guzzlers, the SUVs. And we were going into Iraq in 2002. And I'd see bumper stickers like Keep Tahoe Blue on these Ford Excursions, these bloat automobiles, as I called them, and, bring our troops home. Meantime, we're in Iraq, and in no small part because of the oil there. to feed our, oil addiction. And so we started a grassroots campaign to educate mothers about the need for more clean and green and safe vehicles, and ones that would not tip over, as well as burning cleaner. And we also, so we'd have house parties, green tea parties, we call them, and sort of connect the dots for them between their child's asthma, perhaps, and the vehicles they were toting around one 50-pound kid in at the same time. So we got signatures. Then we took them to Detroit. We met with General Motors. I think that was the only one that would meet with us, and talk to them about the need for these cars. And we said, look here, build them, and these women will buy them, or fathers as well. And Dave Bartmus actually is the one we met with. And he took it seriously, and he said he would bring it to the powers that be. And years later, when they first started coming out with, electric and hybrid vehicles, I asked him, I saw him at a conference. I said, did we have anything to do with that meeting? And he said, absolutely. And maybe he was just making us feel good, but maybe it was true. So don't be fueled. We were around for about 3-4 years ahead of our time. A lot of moms felt threatened, like we were taking away their, SUVs, which of course has never been the case at all. So sometimes when we see a need and we feel it, it makes a difference, doesn't it?
Yep. Well,
Yep.
What's interesting though is about halfway through this 2002 to 2010 arc, I realized that it wasn't about electric cars; it was about climate change. And after starting 2005 or 6, I started realizing that EVs were the beacon of hope for what we could do, that we could take every engine in the world that runs on gasoline and power it by electricity and clean the grid. If we did those two things, we would have made a huge difference. And I also realized that the cars weren't going to come in quickly enough to make any difference at all, really. We're still 2 or 3% of US sales are EVs. And despite everything that people are saying about aggressive future timetables, it's not quick enough. And so, I switched my attention at that point to climate change and to, thinking more broadly.
I'm so glad you mentioned that pathetic percentage, because driving around Marin County, or even in Austin, Texas, where I now live, you can see a lot of Teslas and Leafs and get the feeling that, we're really making progress here. That's a really, really low number. And we do know it is going to explode. I mean, I hope it is going to, it has to, but it's taken a long time to get past that 2% mark.
Yep. At the end of CalCars, we tried to do something different, which was stir up interest in converting a lot of existing vehicles. And I still think of that as CalCars 2, CalCars Squared, a new project that could build on what we're doing, because there's about 2 billion vehicles in the world. And if we could convert a quarter of those to be running on electricity, either fully or partially, that's a $5 trillion business opportunity. And so at ActiveAllies.org, where my projects live, we talk about that idea, and we talk about what's possible there. And the first vehicles, interestingly enough, the first vehicles to convert would be with 3 categories. Pickup trucks, because they have a big area for the batteries in the back. And if you have in-wheel motors, you don't have very much work to do to convert them. Second is tractors, because they don't drive far every day, and they have room where you could put batteries. And the third is classic and luxury vehicles, like the electric conversion of electric Jaguar XKEs and things like that get a lot of attention and enthusiasm. And so we're still looking for a reincarnation of our CalCars project.
I can't wait to introduce you to Jonathan Lake, our founder. I wish he was here to co-interview you, because of course you now know that maybe you have known, that he's been electrifying cars, and famously Joe Biden's 67 Corvette. So that's, I think, the reason I thought to have you on as one of our early interviews, because this kind of innovation, when an idea is the right idea, it happens often in more than one place, except for green media, but we'll talk about that later. I mean, I can't believe I've been at this 2 decades plus, and I've been trying to shame the news networks into saying, you're news leaders, you're missing the most important stories of our time, and they just ignore it. And so what Green TV is all about, as I hope will be clear, is showing them how it should be, how it can be done, how it needs to be done. And that's to interview the eco-innovators that I've interviewed for years on radio. But why television? Well, first of all, I think it's fun to see people's faces. Secondly, we can certainly, when we get the ability, show all the problems and the solutions out in the field. Right now, we're just doing in studio remote interviews, but tremendous potential here. And I think that will reach a wider audience. I certainly hope so, because even though you can kind of, I guess, what's the word? Do things at the same time, multitask. When you're listening, there's something about actually seeing people. And of course, you can just listen without looking at us as well. So lots of big plans and hopes for Green TV. You say something very interesting. You talk about, and we're going to get into what you're working on now with young people and people of wealth, that we shouldn't talk about slowing climate change. We should talk about reversing it. And that's a surprise to me, because when people ask me, is it too late? I said, it's too late to stop it and too late to reverse it, but not too late to slow it down. So tell us what you mean by that and where that hope comes from.
Well, if this book shows up on the screen, this changed my life, this book. It was the first book that had in the title, the most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reverse global warming. It's called Drawdown, and a lot of people have heard of it. If you haven't, go to drawdown.org. And it basically is saying, yes, we don't want to just avoid the worst consequences. We actually, we have the tools to start reversing global warming. And the faster we do it, the fewer the consequences. The 1.5 and the 2-degree goals are compromise goals because that's what people thought was we could accept, but they're not actually a livable world. That's the big secret about 1.5 degrees. If you lose 90% of the coral in the world, you're in big trouble. And so my perspective is that the thing we most need is hope. And I'm talking about active hope, not hoping something happens sometime. Active hope. And that hope derives from the belief in human creativity, that we can actually, if we decide to do what we need to do, we can do it. We have the tools, and we have the ability to make the world a livable, healthy, safe world for everyone in the world, and we can afford to do that. And so I hope a lot of your guests are going to talk about that kind of thing, which is, it involves reversing global warming. It involves regenerating society, regenerating agriculture, regenerating all sorts of aspects of the world, and restoring the world to a healthy, safe environment. And those goals, I think, are much more inspiring. They'll catch people's attention than, work your butt off the rest of your life to slow things down. Not really a great goal.
And whatever happened to American ingenuity and innovation, that we were the country that could do and led until we didn't. And not so much in this area at all. Look at China, being a leader globally in solar panel manufacturing and so many other things that we should be leading on. We could talk about that all day, why that happened, but we now know we need to catch up, right? And there are a lot of things in place to get us up to speed quickly. And that's what this show is going to be about. This network, this platform, Green TV, is spotlighting the solutionaries, as I call you, people who have great ideas, act on them, because we need inspiration. So now the news networks have gone from hardly ever mentioning climate change or, all the other related environmental challenges to talking about it, but never going the next step, which is what can people do about it? And that's how I always ended my radio interviews. And I will ask you that too in a couple of minutes. But first, I want to talk to you about this concept. You say you wake up every day with a quote or two in your head from David Orr. Tell us what that is.
So hope is a verb with its sleeves rolled up, is what this Oberlin professor says. So active hope, when people ask me, are you optimistic? I say, I don't talk about that. If I say yes, people will say, why are you optimistic? For the following reasons, here, this and that. But if I say I'm hopeful, they say, oh, why? And hope is really, what
should I know? Give me some hope, a ray of hope, please.
Yeah. And hope is the opposite of two things. It's the opposite of despair. And if you look at any language like esperar, in other languages, hope and despair are opposites, and indifference. And I feel that, that people who have hope no longer just try to say, oh, I can't think about that, I'm not going to worry about that. That's what fuels people.
Applied hope, I think you called it.
Yeah.
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 And we need hope, but it's got to be based in reality. We can't just hope, like you said, it's got to be active. And I think that's a really great concept, because we are now seeing, the whole movement towards regenerative farming and soil, like that has really taken hold. And if people haven't seen Kiss the Ground, highly recommend that documentary. Among others, we'll be hopefully talking to the filmmakers about, but we do just have a couple of minutes. So if people wanted to take action once they realize that hope is not a crazy or stupid thing to have around climate change and our planet. Actually, it's a necessary thing, but give us a couple of things people can do. You're involved with a lot of nonprofits, and you're also now talking with some people of means to think about where they can put their money now while they're alive.
I think the regenerative agriculture is really important. Imagine if, you can go and you can buy organic food now. What if you could buy food that was labeled, grown with regenerative agriculture? And what if 3 times a day, every person in the world could say, I want to go and I want to feed myself with healthy, safe food, healthy for the local, healthy also for everybody. So basically, most people don't realize that most food is grown with fossil fuels, pesticide, insecticide, herbicide, those CIDE, that means petroleum. And so industrial agriculture is basically, it produces 2 things. It produces poison for the air, water, land, and the workers on farms, and unhealthy food. So if regenerative agriculture uses less water, doesn't have any of those sides, if it's ideally, and people could get paid better to work on that. A lot of college kids I talk to say, I would really like to work on a farm. I would like to take all my tech skills. I would like to work with sensors in the ground for mold and for water and all those kinds of things. Use all the tech to bring into agriculture and have a good time and not be isolated from the world, because I'm still online every day, but I can be in a place growing healthy food for people. So I think that's a really big one. And I actually think veganism could be the leading edge of a real new movement to say we could actually have a healthier, safe world. And just like EVs were 15 years ago, healthy food from people who say, I don't need all this, including artificial, a plant-based and cell-based meat and all the other kinds of things. It may happen much quicker than anyone thinks.
It needs to. And one of the visions I have for Green TV is having a segment or even maybe a daily show on veganism, because there is so much interest in it and talk about it. We could call it the cow in the room, right? The thing that nobody was talking about, but now a lot of people are talking about how realistic, how difficult is it to make the switch. And I just want to say one last thing about the whole regenerative soil farming movement. Of course, there's fossil fuels involved in bringing our blueberries in from Chile. So buying local is equally important, but that's a topic for another day. So we just have a couple minutes left. Give us a couple of, well, if you want to talk about what you're doing with.
So one of them is ActiveAllies, which is the idea of intergenerational action on climate, which is how about people who are in their 20s who wish they could volunteer for Sunrise or other organizations? They not just volunteer, but get paid to work with those organizations and other things, and connect them with gray hairs like me, who can be sponsors, mentors, advisors for those people, and have a whole group of intergenerational projects. We have a proof of concept where we worked with a group of people in their 20s to do exactly this. And you can find out more about that at ActiveAllies.org, and about a couple projects there, including CalCars Squared. And the other thing is grows out a little bit of my experience when I was doing the cars. I met a lot of influential and many wealthy people during that time who were really attracted to this stuff. And I became a grandparent 6 months ago. And as part of our taking stock of what we were doing, we actually came to some realization, which is that we have more than enough money, my wife and I, to live for the rest of our lives, to take care of the people around us. And I have known for a long time that the next, for the last year or two especially, the next 2 or 3 years are really critical for the future of the world. And all the organizations that are out there that need funds, especially post-COVID, if anyone has money available now, give it now, don't wait. And so we've decided, my wife and I, not to wait, put things in our will, but to give away money now. And I've started a project on that. You can find it at my, the best place to find it is at me at LinkedIn, Felix Kramer at LinkedIn, called I Can't Wait to Give Away a Lot in 21-22. And I'm now starting to approach high wealth people to say, would you join me in pledging to give $1 million in 21-22 to the causes you care about, for the democracy crisis, the climate crisis, species extinction, racism, injustice, inequality, all those kinds of issues. Give money now and don't wait. And I'm actually getting people picking up on this, and I hope that this could take off. And I like to think ideally what I'd like. I'm in the Bay Area. There's tens of thousands of people in the Bay Area with over $10 million in assets who could afford to give $1 million away this year. What if 1,000 of those people said, I'm going to give the money away now to Bay Area organizations, to national organizations, to all the cause I care about? That could be transformational. And the model for that is MacKenzie Scott, Jeff Bezos's ex-wife, who said, I've got more than $50 billion in Amazon stock. I'm going to give away all of it as quickly as I can. And that's what she's doing.
I have a slogan for you, another one. Don't wait till you die to help save a dying planet. How's that?
Yeah. And also people have heard of Emily's List. It stands for early money is like yeast. A lot of people don't know that. Money now is much more effective than sometime in the future.
Okay, that's great. We're just about out of time. So a couple of websites you want to make sure people check out?
Yep. I would say look me up on LinkedIn. And you'll find my posting about this. It's really only about a week old idea, which is why it's great I'm talking about it for the first time with you now. And look at ActiveAllies.org. And look at Drawdown.org, and also the Foundation for Climate Restoration, F4CR.org, and one final one, the Climate Emergency Fund. Look up Climate Emergency Fund. It's started, its new executive director is Margaret Klein Solomon, who is more than anyone responsible for getting the idea of a climate emergency and climate mobilization to be adopted all over the place. She's now the director of this new foundation that is going to give that is already giving money to cutting edge organizations and grassroots organizations that go beyond what we think of as environmental projects and climate projects. So those would be my top.
Margaret and so many others. I am so excited. It's been 7 years actually since I stopped production on my radio shows. And every day there's people I think, God, I wish I was doing my show. And I just didn't want to do it till the world and the media frankly caught up, because it can be not sustainable when one is too early, too far ahead.
I'll add one more if I can. Look up Alex Steffen, Steffen, at Substack. He's the guy who was the world-changing guy, a futurist 10 years ago. And he's now got a book coming out this fall called The Snap Forward. And right now you can read his you can listen to podcasts with little pieces of what he's going to be talking about and read his articles, because he says that so many things are broken at this point and not working for so many people, that this is the moment when people could wake up and they could answer Greta Thunberg. They could say, we're going to take the action at the scope, scale, and speed we need now and snap forward to a whole different way of life. And so gives me a lot of hope.
I read one of his pieces you sent me. I love the concept of snap forward. That's catchy and what we need to do. And I also would love to have Greta on the show and tell her that I've been for a long time, you can attest to this, Felix, saying, we can't wait for our kids to solve this problem. They're screaming at us to do everything we can so they can stay in school and hope to have a future that they can not only survive in, but thrive in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. It's always fun to talk to you. And that's an important part of this. We can have fun while we're doing the most challenging work.
Absolutely. If I didn't have dark humor to get me through this dark time, challenging times, I couldn't go ahead. But, that suffering brings, all kinds of creative ways to deal with it. So one doesn't get down, so one doesn't get depressed, so one doesn't give up. Because think about what giving up means. I mean, I don't know about you, but I did not get a memo saying we're giving up on our children, grandchildren, and all future generations. So we ought to roll up our sleeves and have active hope. Love that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Felix.
Okay, a pleasure.
Okay, thanks all of you for joining us. This is exactly where I want to be, talking to the solutionaries, the eco-innovators. I can promise you it will never be boring. I can promise you it will hopefully not be too repetitive. And I will promise you I will never, so long as I'm able to produce and co-host and produce whatever, co-produce and host, maybe we'll have other hosts, we'll never run out of ideas. We'll never run out of topics that are timely and urgent, and we'll never run out of inspiring, knowledgeable, passionate people. They're out there. I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of them, and we're going to bring them back. And we got a whole generation of new ones. Thanks so much. See you next time.